Okay. Can everybody see what I'm sharing?
Yes. Thank you,
Okay.
Alexis.
So, hi, my name is Alexis Villanueva, and I am a research and recruitment coordinator here at the KU ADRC. And today I will be talking about what the steps are when you're considering research. So, the first thing that we take a look at are these initial interest questions. They help give us a bigger picture of what you might be interested in and what research studies are best for you. So we asked, do you have a diagnosis? What type of research would you like to be a part of? How much time can you commit? And your medical history and demographic information. So the best way for you to contact us is by filling out this MAD form. So by filling out this form, it helps us get a good idea of what you may be eligible for before we call you. That way we have, some resources ready when talking to you. And the form consists of various questions, such as, are you interested in a specific research study? And then what type of studies might you be interested in? What caused you to reach out to us? How did you hear about us? Some contact information, such as your first name, last name, date of birth, email, phone number. And then lastly, we ask you some memory questions. So the first question is, do you feel that you're experiencing any memory or thinking changes? And if you mark that you are, it'll prompt some more questions asking, what type of memory changes are you having? Have you spoken to a provider about these changes? Do you have a diagnosis? Are you taking medication for it? And with that, um, we are able to see kind of what study section that you would be in. So we have studies for participants with a diagnosis and without, along with studies for participants who have Down syndrome. So here's just a list of all the studies in their category. The next thing that we think about is each study that we have is separated into a category. They're either interventional or observational. The interventional studies consist of medication, nutrition, and exercise studies, and the observational studies um, are for both impaired and non-impaired as well as interventional. And some of the observational studies were graded for both impaired and non-impaired participants. So participants that have a memory diagnosis and participants who don't. And some examples of those are our AROMA study, our clinical cohort study, and our ADNI study. We also have interventional and observational studies for the Down syndrome participants, and that would be our ABATE is our medication one. And then we have several observational ones that are listed at the bottom. So that's just them categorized if you guys want to take a quick look. And then how much time can you commit to a study? If you're just starting off and you want to dip your toes in the water with research, we have studies that are only one visit long, ranging to studies that can be up to 4.5 years long. Another thing that we have to think about is how often can you come into our center? So we have studies that are more demanding and you have to meet more often, daily, weekly, and then we have some that are yearly, which tend to be our observational studies. Staying in the area is another question that we like to ask because a lot of people that we see tend to um, leave for the winter. So it's good just to let us know beforehand so that we can make sure to give you more information about studies that fit your schedule, fit your time frame, and what you're looking for. These are our research process. So step one consists of you guys just contacting us, whether that's filling out a MAD form, that's emailing us, that's calling us. The next step is then we ask you those initial intake questions, the ones from the very beginning. And then once we ask you those questions and we get a feel for, if you're ready to take that next step to consent and see if you're eligible for a study, we get you consented and we have you fill out those screening surveys. Then step 4 is if after we receive that information, we'll let you know what studies you're potentially eligible for. We give you a lot of information about them. We try to answer all of your questions that we have, and then you make a decision on which study you would like to move forward with. So once you make your decision, we pass you to the study team, which is step 5. The study team then asks you some additional screening questions just to make sure that you're fully eligible for it. And then if you are, they'll get you scheduled for that first visit. And then if you're not, then you'll come back to us and we'll talk about those other studies. Here's an example of some of those questions that we ask in the screening survey in step 3. We ask demographic questions such as race and ethnicity, and then we move on to asking you questions about your medical history, such as, do you have any difficulty falling asleep? Do you have any history of any head injuries, seizures, questions along those lines? Then we ask you physical activity questions. Those are more for our exercise studies. And then we also ask if you're allergic to any medications, what medications you're currently on, if you've had any changes. And lastly, we ask about any more memory questions. These are just a few of them. We have a lot more that we talk about, but I just wanted to show you some so that you would have a good idea. And then here are some participant pictures. So in the middle, we have some participants who were part of our exercise study Comet. It's them at the gym with their personal trainer. And then we also have some pictures of some participants speaking with the providers, asking them questions. And then the top 2 corners are participants actively in the study and going through their process. And we're always really grateful when people are eager to let us take a picture and upload it, just because it's so nice for everyone to be able to see some of the process and what that looks like. Unfortunately, there are times where you may not be eligible for any of our studies, so we do have additional resources such as our LEAP program by Alliance, and then we have dementia support groups, which are virtual and in person as well. And then this is our team. And here's our contact information, our phone number, our email, and some of us are on today. So let me know if you guys have any questions or anything that you would like to know more about.
Thanks, Alexis, for sharing the information about that research and recruitment process. Madison has put the link in the chat for the form that Alexis first showed you. And Alexis, you referred to it as a MAD form. What am I filling out a MAD form for? Why is it a MAD form?
Sorry, I didn't explain that. It's like an acronym that we like to use. It stands for our My Alliance database. And we just thought that MAD would be fun. And that's what we call it.
So if you fill out the form, we don't think you're mad. It's a good thing. It's getting you into our database so that we can consider you for those research studies, as Alexis mentioned. There was a really good question in the chat about what type of results do you get back in the study. Ronnie posted a response to that. Alexis, anything else you want to add or talk about about results of the study, or even compensation for studies?
Let's take a look at that. So Ronnie responded very well. He said it does vary with what each trial is able to share. So some studies like to share, they give you all of the information that you have, and then other studies don't give any. So just like he said, it just depends on each study. And then Madison listed a link of all of the studies that we have currently. And
Alexis, is there compensation for studies?
so that also depends on each study. So some studies, I would say that most typically do, but some of the studies that provide you with all of the information don't compensate just because you're getting all of those testings done. So it just depends on each study.
And is that something that you also talk with potential participants about in addition to their time commitment and health history? Do you also talk about what the study process looks like and compensation for the study?
Yes, so when we get to that point where we ask you guys, where we let you know what you're eligible for, we go through how long the study is, what procedures would need to be done, what results are provided, as well as the compensation, a brief description of it. We try to give you as much information as we have at that time. And sometimes there is some stuff that we don't know. So if you're super interested in that one and just have additional questions, we typically will pass you to the study team and then you can ask those questions to them directly. And there is sometimes where, people like to ask some of the questions and it just doesn't work with their schedule. It is always 100% okay to say, you know what, this study is not a fit for me. And then we consider you for another one.
Or some of those studies go on for a couple of years. So it right now might not work, but then if you wanted, after things calm down in a couple months or 6 months, we can give you a call back to revisit that study too. We've got a couple other questions in the chat. Any studies coming to Olathe? So do you want to talk a little bit about geographical range for studies?
Yes. So most of our studies are in the KC area. They're at our Fairway Center. I have
4350 Shawnee Mission Parkway is where we're located.
yes. And then there are some studies that have to do some of the testing at the KU Med Center location, the imaging center out there. We do have a COMET study, which is an exercise study, and one of the gym locations happens to be in Olathe, I'm pretty sure. But as far as only based in Olathe, I think that's the only one. I did see another question that said,
But I would say for the person in Olathe, any of our studies here at the Fairway location, you would be eligible to participate in.
Yes.
Because you would still be considered in the KC metro area.
I saw another question is, if you've already been in a study, can you be in another one? And the answer is yes. So some of the studies even allow you to be in 2 at a time, but some studies are only 1 at a time. So if one is finished, yes, definitely. What happens is the study team will ask you, are you interested in other studies? And if you mark yes, if you let them know, then they let us know, leave a note, say, this person is interested in other studies, and we'll talk to you about your options then as well.
Looks like there's a question about community-based studies outside of the research clinic.
So I know that that KU does a bunch of different studies, not just Alzheimer's studies. I know that it depends. We have a lot of different ones. And then if you want to look at different kinds, you can also always look on clinicaltrials.gov. They have a list of a lot of studies that are open as well. Do you know any specific community-based studies, Tina?
At this time, we don't have any other than the COMET study that involves some of the GEMS in the area. We do have the CUITA CareTex program, which is kind of like a study, but it's a program, and we partnered with MARC, Missouri American Regional Council. We received a grant from them, and that we work with them, but that study is delivered to people through their phones, so they can be anywhere, but you do have to either live in one of 7 different counties in Missouri, I think it's 7, or the person that has dementia you're caring for has to live in one of those counties to be eligible for that program. But those are the 2 that come to my mind. But one of the things, and this comes to whether or not you're eligible for a study at this time or not, we're always getting new studies, and studies are ending. So it might be, thank you, Amy, for putting in those counties in the chat. It may be just a moment in time of right now, at this moment, we don't have any studies, but in a few months, we might get a couple of new studies or a new study. So for instance, last year at this time, we didn't have any Down syndrome studies. Now we have 5 Down syndrome studies. Before the year ended last year, we did not have a one-time study visit for individuals who had cognitive impairment. And now we do have the NeuroWalk study. It's a one-time study visit. So if somebody had been looking for, I just want a one-time study visit, we might not have had a study for them, but now we do. So that's something, we may have a community-based study in the future, but at this moment, we don't have one. Looks like there's another question in here. Can you further help me to understand why some studies do not want to share results of tests? Some folks still want to know.
Yes, so some of the testing is done in research. So we'll have an MRI done, but it's not done the same way that it is done by if you go to the doctor's office and have your provider order an MRI. It's a research MRI, and so it's not giving the same information that you would need. They are not very specific on sometimes why they don't give all of the information, but it is just dependent upon the study. A lot of the studies do say, though, that if it is something that you would need to know that would affect your health, they would let you know that you would need to get checked out by a provider for this reason. But they just don't always provide their films and their stuff because they like to keep that with ADRC and with research in private. So yeah.
And I would say that that's something that has been a shift in the past. Participants were completely blind to any of the results. And we are seeing more of a shift. And even since my time here at the ADRC, we are seeing more and more studies sharing results with people, or at least providing the opportunity for them to disclose their results. Not everyone wants to know their results. And so we do make sure that we ask before just disclosing them if it is a study that discloses any type of results. But we are seeing more and more studies as they come on are having more information that they're disclosing. Some things they can't disclose until the end of the study, just because of the integrity of the study. And so if they release it early, then it could impact the overall results. So some things like that they want to keep until the end of the study. But we can always, if you had a study that you were really interested in and they weren't releasing the information, you can always let our team know and we can pass that on. Sometimes the studies will change their protocols. So we've had some studies in the past where and it's a study that may be ongoing for several years, and the protocol they started with, they have to make some amendments to it. So if we hear that people are wanting these results and it's a study that doesn't disclose those results, and we can share that with the study teams, they can take that to their study sponsors or to the primary investigator, and they could consider maybe amending that protocol or changing it, and then we could maybe start changing it. So I would say that if there is a study that you're interested in, they don't share the results, please let us know, because then we can send that back to the study team to either say, we are having a hard time finding people enrolling in your study because you're not disclosing results, or people who are in your study are unhappy because they would like to have the results. Could you change the protocol? So be sure to share that type of information with us so we can pass that on to study teams too. Other questions? Recruitment team who's on here, Madison, Ronnie, Cynthia, anything else that you want to add or share with everyone today? Or I see Amy's on here too.
I would just like to add that we definitely appreciate everyone's consideration and participation, and and just want to say if you can't find a study, it's not a lack of failure on your part at all. Sometimes people just don't fit in some of our studies, but we always appreciate those who are enthusiastic to try and those who just reach out. So any effort is always appreciated.
Thanks, Ronnie. And I would also add that we do have studies that we offer through our KU Wichita site as well. And they have studies going on there. So even if you're not in this area, you can give us a call and we can get you connected with KU Wichita for research. And we can also share resources and information about our different events that we have coming up and going on too that might be of interest. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, Alexis, thank you so much for your presentation today and talking to us about research and what that journey looks like. Recruitment team, thank you for helping support the presentation today and for all your conversations with the community talking about research involvement. And those of you, thank you so much for your interest in research. That's absolutely incredible. And Dr. Jeff Burns, our director, often talks about our biggest barrier to a cure is finding research participants. So the more interest we can have in research and the more opportunities we can connect people with research studies, the further we can help propel the field. So thank you again for all of your interest and connection with the ADRC. Kelly Loeb will be back on next week, and we have our education calendar that has been finalized, that is out there on the website, and she'll be sending that in the upcoming My Alliance emails. So be on the lookout for our 2024 education calendar with events for you to attend as well. And lastly, we have a hybrid weekly webinar coming up on April 11th. So that will be in person here at the ADRC for anyone who wants to come join us here at the ADRC, but it will also be available online live, just like normal, so that people who aren't able to come in can still participate in the webinar. So Kelly will tell you more about that weekly webinar that will be a hybrid in the future. All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you're able to get out and enjoy this lovely weather. Take care.